It's the 19th of May 2022. Hi everybody, welcome. I'm Dana Durnford, also known as the nuclearproctologist.org, which just means we investigate the nuclear industry to the point of, it's just well to call me a proctologist because I leave nothing, and I mean nothing, to chance. 709-589-4406, 709-589-4406. You can call that number 24 hours a day if you want to report a scumbag, nuclear apologist, nuclear academic, nuclear company, corporation, or you got questions that I might be able to help you with. It doesn't mean I'm going to answer the phone 24 hours a day. But you can call. I will return your call if I see your number. I don't hear you, if I don't catch you. You can also call into the live show, which is happening as we speak. Of course, we have a poll tonight. Should the UN fake, this is a fake organization, the International Atomic Energy Agency. It's a fake organization designed, it's what's called control opposition, be replaced by an independent real organization worldwide? Yes, and the answer obviously is yes. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the evilness of them, it's impossible to describe how actual evil these scumbags are. This is a radioactive fallout map of depiction from France. This is a 16-day model. Now, what they're trying to do is convince you to worry about tanks and not worry about the 16 or the many models of the radioactive fallout. So after 16 days, we have sentenced the planet to death. So they're trying to distract you. I can quantify those assertions because I've done research expeditions from Vancouver, British Columbia, all the way to Alaska, year after year after year. And I'm still hurting from all these research expeditions. These have bankrupted me and the organization, the nuclearproctologist.org. I have been attacked and smeared and hunted by the nuclear industry for over a decade because of this. The research expeditions have uncovered terrifying implications from the radioactive fallout. So you can cover the beaches with people, and all of those people are me. I shot each one of them individually and inserted it into a picture of a naked beach, because the species to your left will never be found. Even if you fill the beaches up with people, you will never find the species to your left. They are permanently exterminated. These are authentic before and after pictures. Me and my trusty sidekick, Zoe, still hurts me to see videos and pictures of her. She died in my arms on a bird expedition a few years ago at the age of 15, so she done really good. I was taking her in for a pee. This is by Alaska on a perfect day. You can see the coastline with a 19-foot tide exchange is absolutely naked. It's stripped of all species. This is less than 10 miles from Alaska. The coastline should look like the pictures to your left. And Fukushima has already wiped it out. The ocean is officially dead. All the whales, the birds, the mammals they're finding now are emaciated, have starved to death. When the birds fly along the coastline, the species to your left would normally be easy pickings, but they can't find any species to the left because it's exterminated, and the documentation is to the right. We've done this for 6 years. So the birds are starving to death. They can't find food, not only in the ocean, but also on the coastline. The coastline has been stripped naked by radioactive fallout. This research is year after year. The species didn't come back. The ocean didn't recede the coastline. And typically this is what the weather would look like. This was a typical day for me. And this was a typical day for me. It's miserable day in. I used to go to 5 to 6 months a year on the ocean without coming home in desperation to find out if there was any species left. I'm still traumatized from this research. The research has never stopped, and neither have the pathetic, despicable, cowardly lawyers like Rafael Grossi from the scumbag International Atomic Energy Agency. Be careful where you park your bicycle. They're growing food in the nuclear wasteland, but 55 countries banned it from 14 prefectures. The tanks are meant to distract you. Canada removed all restrictions after 93 days. 55 countries banned it from 14 prefectures for over a decade. Canada has doomed, the Canadian nuclear industry has doomed our country, the health of our loved ones, our friends, and our families. Don't be a victim. All nuclear power plants, except for a couple, over 400 nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms. This is an evil, degenerate, scumbag, genocidal, mass murdering industry. You need to gut up. You need to make a stand. This is Earth's last stand. The stacks that I'm pointed out there in this picture to your right are the stacks where they're hemorrhaging radiation from the fuel pools that are still splitting the
Japanese government
atom.
aims to begin release.
This video, a few days ago, he claimed Rafael Grossi, the International Atomic Energy demonic chief, is allegedly claiming he was going to go to the Fukushima plant.
In the water.
Every step of the way. Well, as the head of the agency, going there and having my own assessment will help me make my own assessment and come to my own conclusions.
Grossi says he intends to hear from locals.
He never went there. He never provided any videos, any documentation. The media is reporting today they're showing us 2 pictures. These pictures are both faked pictures on top of that. The exact same pictures showed up in all the medias. Look how pretty those tanks are. Look at Rafael Grossi's. What is he holding in his hand? Surely that can't be a bottle of water. The sadistic, filthy fucking scum should be arrested immediately. This picture here, you'll notice the background is completely denigrated. It's not faded. It's not blogged. If you take your camera and you turn off the autofocus, or you have a manual lens, which means it has no motor into it, then the background is going to be as clear as the foreground. Even if you turn off the autofocus on an autofocus lens, the background will be the same as the foreground. It won't be denigrated. We'll get to that right away. Nuclear has become irrelevant. This is why you see the perpetual lies we're seeing on top of that. China, the only country with a significant new built program, in 2020 added 2 gigawatts of nuclear, 150 gigawatts of solar and wind. Worldwide, the net capacity increase was 0.4 gigawatts of nuclear, and renewables was 248 gigawatts, which is equal to 300 nuclear power plants worth of renewable energies. Again, nuclear is irrelevant. Last year was 333 nuclear power plants were the renewables, and that's equal to 333 or 291 gigawatts of nuclear power. We'll take a step back in time in a little tiny bit. I'll walk you through the documentation, and once you watch this presentation, even up to this point, you should be calling for the end of nuclear, particularly because of the research expeditions clearly show this is an extinction event. Regulators agree on Fukushima radioactive water release. There is no regulator. The regulators, the captured regulators, I should say, are again what they call control opposition. Their job is not to criticize the despicable, disgusting, genocidal, omnicidal industry, it's to prop it up. The nuclear regulation authorities, there is no such thing. There is no regulations. And if you go through my archive and you can't wrap your mind around it, how the frig did you ever log into a computer will confuse me for the rest of my life. The nuclear regulation authorities will officially approve the water release plan after the public comments. In other words, go F yourselves. There is not 1,000 tanks at the site, there's 750. The tanks are empty. You can't fill up the tanks with fuel water. This is what we're talking about. The time we're pouring water over a reactor melted core. It's known as curium. You need lead shielding 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium for curium isotopes. Curium is the biggest byproduct, by the way, of the irradiated fuel rod. And everybody should have a fuel rod and shove it up his you know what. Well, now let's go through some of these pictures. There's only 2 pictures released. No videos, no pictures of them anywhere in the vicinity of the nuclear reactors. None. 0. Zilch. Not one. Nothing. Nothing. He's a despicable coward. He's a disgusting parasite that should be jailed till the very end of time. He has no right to be free on this planet. He has zero right. He has zero right to do what he's doing. Go get a real job, you disgusting parasite, you. Look at the beautiful tanks in the background. See the windsock behind his big stupid head? What the frig have you got in his hand? You disgusting parasite, you Grossi, you gross, disgusting maggot. It's unbelievable. This is his other picture. These stacks are over 25 sieverts per hour. You can't walk past the stacks. Again, we see them taking this picture. It's photoshopped in over the buildings. Notice how the reactor 3 is hid away in this picture. The fake reactor 3, as I'll show you coming up, by the way. Look how beautiful these stupid empty tanks are. Do you got any idea what happens on a nuclear waste site? It's absurd to suggest that this despicable coward is at that site. It's absurd. This is one of the models of the radioactive fallout covering the planet of the Xenon-133. The idea is to distract you from this, to make you think of only what they might do, not what they have already done. You need to grow up. You need to give me a fucking break and get busy. You need to come out and stomp their guts out so I can take a day off. This is 19-day projection of cesium covering the entire planet. This is the Atlantic Ocean. That's the Pacific Ocean. There's what's left of Hawaii. There's the Atlantic Ocean. This is just 19 days of radioactive fallout, covering the entire planet and all the oceans in a continuous plume of radiation. And they got you squeaking about tanks. By the way, why don't they let people take independent samples of the tanks? The Japanese government has been accused of a cover-up after it refused to allow independent testing of the empty tanks. The tanks are built to trick you and manipulate you and deceive you. I hope you are doing good. And if you're doing good, why ain't you stomping their guts out? Here's what the original buildings looked like. These were 190-foot buildings, for goodness sakes. The pillars on the buildings, you can actually turn a large SUV around on them. They're that big. These were 19-story, 190-foot tall buildings, 150 feet wide, are completely leveled. There's nothing but stumps left. This is one of the stumps when they cleared the wreckage with who knows how many homeless they sacrificed. The International Atomic Energy has never visited this site. This disgusting parasite. Now, I'd done a presentation about a week ago on just reactor 4 and 3, where these people are faking being at the fuel pool. The fuel pools are at the top of the buildings. The reactor cores run up to the top of the buildings. That's reactor, the stump of reactor 3. It doesn't remain anymore. I'm going to play this little clip of just one of the many, many medias pretending they're on top of a building that don't even exist.
We are here inside reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi.
I'll do that again. Hang on.
We are here inside reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011, leading to the country's worst nuclear disaster.
They also faked reactor 3. They're pretending they're on top of a building that doesn't even exist. That's me. I just inserted myself in to show you how easy it is done.
Lewis!
The bolts in the Fukushima tank will corrode in just a few years.
Mom! Mommy! 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 Mama! 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 Ma! 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 Mom! 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 Mommy! Mommy! Mama! 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 What? Hi.
That's actually me. That's the saddest part of the story tonight, by the way. The Bromson lung effect. This is why Rafael Grossi is not actually physically going to go to that site or any other. And I'll show you a couple of more reasons. First off, if you fill the tank up, and I'll show you the numbers of the radiation coming up, it's absurd numbers per liter. The tanks are over 1 million sieverts. Now, 5 to 10 sieverts is a lethal dose. 10 to 20 sieverts is an instant lethal dose. 100 sieverts is walking towards it, you drop. Your organs melt right away, you die. 1,000 sieverts, you're walking hundreds of feet past it and you drop dead. You're talking over 1.4 million sieverts per tank. Up just better. They've refused to acknowledge gamma, neutrons, and alphas. So, on top of that, the radioactive fallout from the abandoned, you can't go to the abandoned communities, but it's safe at the nuclear meltdown ground zero, huh? But another problem with the radioactive fallout at ground zero is it pulses energy. The neutrons, the alphas, the betas, the gammas are pulsing almost at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. What that means is they don't mix. They pulse energy almost at the speed of light. They hit each other almost at the speed of light, the alphas, the neutrons, the gammas. the betas, and they change direction at the speed of light and creates this brutal X-ray effect over the entire region, let alone site. 2 sieverts an hour, they acknowledge in this particular story, per liter of leaked water from the tanks. Now, if that's true, then you can't build another tank on site, because one tank is a lethal dose no matter where you to on the site. If you fill up just this section of tanks, you can't get back on the site anywhere. Think about these connotations. With one more earthquake, Japan will cease to exist, and that the resulting radioactive fallout will take half the planet with it. And so when I showed you my research expeditions at the beginning, it's because it has already happened to us. Then you have to take into consideration for many years they actually physically couldn't get on the site. Fukushima reactor site engulfed by steam or something like steam. Work to remove the rubble is suspended. 4.7 sieverts per hour at one spot by the number 1 reactor, the steam coming out of the ground, which was 20% more than June of 2011, which meant that that's a lethal dose. It's not 4.7 sieverts an hour, it's a lethal dose. Let me explain it to you. Massive radioactivity releases at Fukushima going on for almost 3 years, 2014. The visible steam is just the tip of the iceberg. The containments are broken. This is video to your right is hundreds of times the normal speed. Think of it as an overnight. They have 6 position Geiger counters that max out at 10 sieverts an hour. They all were showing 10 sieverts an hour. The doses were most likely thousands of sieverts per hour in the steam, where the whole site disappears in steam. This went on for 3 years that we know about, that they admit to. This is incredibly lethal doses we're talking about. There's no way for them to be on the site. So 2 sieverts an hour of better radiation, 10 sieverts an hour in 6 places of steam. You had fuel ejected all over the site. There's about 1,000 kinds of fission products, not 60 like they claim. Fukushima radioactive tanks may have already been emptied into the Pacific Ocean. 2013. They never stopped. They couldn't filter the water. You couldn't get on the site. And the filtration systems, I'll show you, didn't work even in 2014. It didn't work because they couldn't get back on the site. It was a suicide mission to go on the site. No nuclear scientists, let alone degenerate Grossi, have ever been to that site. The degenerate Japanese government has run out of space to keep the contaminated water. This is 2013, folks. They plan to release 1.9 million tons. There's 1,000 tanks on the site in 2013. How many tanks have they got today? Oh, that's right, 1,000 tanks. The tanks are not going to be filled up because it's lethal doses. The tanks are meant to distract you from the truth, from the facts, from the documentation that I provide for you endlessly. There's no way to shield a Bromson lung from the contaminated water tanks, TEPCO stated. The tank's material turns into Bromson lung. It's technically impossible to shield each tank. Even if they put the shielding material inside the tank, it still causes the Bromson lung effect. 2 sieverts an hour If you fill up a tank, now they're only acknowledging better. If you fill up a tank at 2 sieverts per liter, you can't get back on the site. You can't build another tank. You gotta get your act together and fight for your future and fight for your loved ones and your friends and your families and your communities and your planet and the future generation and the species. You gotta make that stand. It's your watch. It's your responsibility. Your universities have stabbed you in the back. Your medias have stabbed you in the back and gutted you and left you to bleed out. It's time to make a stand. In 2013, they had 1,000 steel tanks. In 2013, they also claimed that they were inside of a building that doesn't even exist. That's your loving media. The building to your left is the building they're claiming they're at the very top, way above the fuel pools, looking down on it. Look at them. Go read the story yourself, for God's sakes. 2013, pretending they're on a building that doesn't exist. That doesn't concern you. There is nobody on the planet providing you with this documentation. So you better snatch it up, you better get educated, and you better give me a break. Get busy. What are you waiting for? What do you need? Tell me what you need, I'll get it for you. I'll do it. There's nothing I won't do for you and your planet and your friends and your families and your loved ones. What is it you need to get motivated? You want vitamins? Give me your fucking address and I'll ship it to you. Get your ass in gear. It's time to gut up. 1 million people should snatch Grossi and hang that fucker from a tree immediately. March the 10th, 2014. 1,200 tanks. They got 1,000 tanks today. Dana? Huh? Oh, that's nice. 2017. 1,000 tanks. 2014, 1,000 tanks. 2017, 900 tanks. Again, try walking with both of your feet flat on the ground. I dare you. I double dare you, actually. See all the rust on that? This is Photoshop. I don't know why, but that's Photoshop. The picture's probably taken with a really big zoom lens on top of that. 2022. Fukushima, or 2019, 1,000 tanks. On this line right here at the beginning. 2021, 1,000 tanks. So you got 1,000 tanks in 2013 and 1,000 tanks in 2022. How good are you at math? Are you any good at math? If you got 1,000 tanks 9 years ago and 1,000 tanks today in 2022, how many tanks did they fill up in the last 9 years, genius? By the way, I counted the tanks. There's only 750. I provide the evidence, but that doesn't seem to matter for anybody. Who needs evidence anymore? The International Atomic Energy said something, therefore nothing else matters. TEPCO's done nothing for over 2 years to stop the radioactive water. The word leak, whoever uses that word should have their head split open. Water above 1 sievert per hour. This is madness to even suggest that these people are human. Resulting destruction will take half. You can't go to the supermarkets, but they're at ground zero walking around with a face mask, a dust mask on. It's absurdness to suggest that's true. All of humanity will be threatened for thousands of years if the rods in the building that don't exist touch. All of humanity. This is a Yale professor telling you that if the fuel rods in the pool that doesn't exist touch, humanity is threatened for thousands of years. Well, guess what, geniuses? It touched. I don't understand why you don't speak out. I can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend the cowardness on this planet from all our universities, let alone anything else. The fuel pools used to be at the top of a 190-foot building that doesn't exist anymore. Look at the guts hanging out of the building over there. If that was your building and I showed you a picture and said you had a little boo-boo, what would you say to me? You say, Dana, the building is destroyed. No, you had a little boo-boo. You're like, no, it's destroyed. You're like, no, it's not. The fuel pools are at the top of the building. Ask the media. When this they built it in an earthquake zone, for goodness sakes. They put the fuel at the top of the buildings, for stupid sakes. The world's worst design. And the people that done that are still alive, by the way. When all the buildings have already blown up, the NRC was asked to explain to Congress what the frig is going on.
We're here to get a briefing on the ongoing crisis associated with the nuclear power plants in Japan. I'm very privileged that we have the executive director for operations at the NRC here, Bill Borchardt.
I couldn't speculate on that.
An expert, a true expert as well.
Again, I wouldn't wish to speculate.
So we feel very blessed that you could come and stand in until the chairman comes, and we really do welcome you.
Again, I can't speculate.
Well, teaching all of us the lessons that we have to take away from what is happening.
I couldn't speculate on that. What we believe is a significant amount of fuel damage in the three operating reactors, units 1, 2, and 3, which were operating at the time of the earthquake. And then because of the spent fuel problems that are in Unit 4 of that reactor facility. All of those factors taken into combination, if that same type of source term, that same type of radiological problem existed in the United States, our recommendation to state governments would be to evacuate out to 50 miles.
Well, that's a really good point, because I'm asking you, do you know how many people live within 50 miles of San Onofre nuclear power plant?
I do not know.
Well, I'm going to tell you how many people. 7.4 million people.
These are death factories. Okay, IAEA chief inspects Fukushima nuclear power plant, which is an unequivocal lie. That's an absolute lie. There's too much lethal doses. These cowards are zero possibility they're going into that environment. The evidence also suggests this is Photoshop. They had faked it. When you look at the background, you can look at why did they give us no actual footage of reactor 3 or the other reactors. This is allegedly them yesterday. They're not at the site. This is Photoshop. When you look at the background, what you discover is not what a camera lens does. This is the denigrated background. This is Photoshop, 100%. Not maybe, not almost, but this is 100%. They took the picture this way. It's almost impossible to extrapolate what the frig they're trying to tell you. It gets worse. Inspected to cripple Fukushima Daiichi nuclear crippled. Buildings that don't even exist now are described as crippled. You are walking I'm sorry, you are running, you are falling into danger. You need to grab on to reality and fight back. It's not very hard to tell the truth, you know. He inspected tanks. Grossi did, Dana. Oh yeah, inspected tanks. Storing the treated water. We'll challenge that narrative in a second. Oh, and the advanced liquid processing system. I got a wonderful idea. If you've done all of this, why don't you show us some videos? Or even pictures. Why don't you show us something? The claim there's only tritium when there's over 1,000 fission products you got to worry about. The contempt, and by the way, tritium doesn't come from a nuclear meltdown. Tritium 3H does. 2 protons, 2 neutrons and a proton. They're man-made anthropogenic, and that's not what they're acknowledging. Crippled. Bit of a theme, isn't it? To show you these vague pictures. If you fill up the tank and empty the tank with water you're pouring over the melted corium, the reactor core that had melted down. So if I dump all the water out of the tank and fill it up with fresh water, that water is lethal by the gallon. Because that's how radiation works. Actually, I had a spammer on my site today saying that radiation doesn't cross-contaminate. 90% of a nuclear plant, by the way, is radioactive from the neutron bombardments, for goodness sakes. The industry, the minute you speak out, the world has a possibility of survival. You gotta get some courage. Your voice is incredibly, unbelievably, unimaginably powerful, despite the fact you think it's not. Your opinion will make the world a better place, whether you realize it. Even if nobody watches your video, if 1,000 people post it, the industry will defecate over itself. He added, the only way, and I know a thing or two about that, I'm the nuclear proctologist. He added that the only way to earn the confidence and the trust of the general public is by being absolutely open in everything we do and not hiding anything from them. So where is the videos? Where is the pictures? Where is the evidence? Where is the independent research? Where is the independent samples from the tanks? Where is the independent oversight? Why is scum, degenerate, monstrous military-industrial complex United Nations the only arbiter of facts? How is that a way forward? You stupid and despicable cowards. The water treated with the ALP system. We'll get to that. Water has become contaminated after being pumped in to cool the melted reactor fuel, which is, by the way, they don't seem to know that that's called a curium. About 1.29 million tons of treated water is currently stored at the plant and is inching closer to the capacity. They had 1,000 tanks in 2013, 1,000 tanks in 2022. If the world would just support me, I could crush this disgusting, cowardly industry in short order, in less than a year, I bet you. All the media publish the same pictures. I'm sorry, picture. Single picture. There's one media posted another picture. I showed it to you already. You got him holding a microphone. They're wearing dust masks along perfect tanks. With somebody holding, I think, is a newspaper. The whole story is just, it's so easy to destroy the deception. This is ludicrous. If you take a vapor pen, you know those vapor pens, and you take a draw on the vapor pen, put that mask on and blow through it, all the vapor comes through the mask. The mask can't protect you from radiation, for God's sakes. These are despicable. This is Photoshop. This is despicable. He's absolutely unequivocally not at the site. If he was at the site, there'd be thousands of pictures or videos and everything else. What the frig have he got in his hand? Oh, that's his sample of water from the tanks, as opposed to be interpreted as. With your cotton gloves on, there are 50 cents cotton gloves on. You can buy them $10 a pack, 20 in a pack, 50 cents each. Cotton gloves at a nuclear meltdown. Well, thank goodness not wearing their paper suits today is all I can say. That's a newspaper. Look how he's holding the newspaper. The guy behind him is holding the newspaper. This is madness. With his little bottle of water, got his little sample, he's headed back to the disgusting dungeon known as the International Atomic Energy Agency's headquarters. This is an actual monster you're looking at there. These are actually demons. Look at the perfect tanks in the background. If you fill up the tank, you ain't getting near the tank. You ain't building another tank on the site either. And this was the second picture. The stack at the ground level is 25 plus sieverts per hour, for goodness sakes. It's a brutal dose where they're standing, not counting the meltdowns. Why are they hiding the meltdown for? Where's the other documentation? It says transparency is key. He should be transparent. Somebody should stick him in reactor 3 and be done with it. Again, the exact same two pictures. And when you zoom in on the pictures, it's revolting what they're doing. After his visit to Fukushima Prefecture, he went off and raped a bunch of babies, most likely. IAEA degenerate traitor trash Rafael Grossi praises progress on Fukushima decommissioning with fake Photoshop pictures and human sacrifices, no doubt. Perfect, beautiful tanks. Got his little bottle of water. I think the planet is... If we go back, this is one of his tweets. Inspects the Fukushima nuclear plant over water discharge. This is a despicable monster. Should be arrested immediately. The military-industrial complexes, United Nations, which is 195 militaries, subsidiary company of the IAEA, Secretary General, which is anybody. I'm the Secretary General of the nuclear proctologist, for God's sakes. Inspects the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, confirms preparation for the discharge of water. The 5 members included piece of shit Grossi. On the morning of the 19th, he spent 2 hours inspecting the premises with no documentations, no pictures, no videos. Why? Why? Posting a message video on Twitter. I'm back in Fukushima for the first time in 2 years, standing in front of a tank of treated water containing radioactive materials. I scoured the internet and we got nothing. If you go back to 2 years ago, look at this picture. Look at a friggin' rat. Look at that piece of shit in the background. Remember him from these other pictures in this exact same spot of the former prime ministers? But look at the reactors. That's not how a camera works. Cameras don't take pictures like this. They're either blurry in the background, and that's by design of the lens, but not denigrated. That's not blurry, that's denigrated. That's a shitty picture. They're taking, this is a perfect picture. They're photoshopped into that one there. Crimes against humanity is what we're looking at right there. And that creep right there, this was 2021, that picture, by the way. Look, we're going to Photoshop. And if you look at the bottom of the reactor 3 building, they built that structure off-site, brought it in. It's 177 feet tall. You see the gap over there? That's the destroyed reactor peeking out at you. Let me find pictures that will help you appreciate it. Been around, I've been at this so long, I feel like I'm 1,000 years old now. That's what you're looking at. Look at this building. So if you take this picture, that building in the background should look like this. It shouldn't look like a very faded, stupid cardboard cutout. When you zoom in on that little spot right there, and you won't see, by the way, you won't see this footage anywhere else because this was extrapolated from a single picture where I was able to zoom in. Japan now doesn't let you right-click on their pictures on any media in Japan, because we were able to get these types of pictures that show you unequivocally the deception and deceit and dishonesty that is going on there. This was all the pictures available today in 24 hours. I went to every one of these stories and extrapolated the stories we're showing you tonight. There's only 2 pictures at the reactor site itself. I showed you both of them repeatedly. I investigated every single story, and these people are faking it. Not maybe, not almost, not perhaps. They're faking it. He looked over tanks containing, again, the word treated water. You don't have a single media on the entire planet that you can talk to. I counted the tanks to 750. Let's talk about the Riva system and the ALP system. Not that it matters, but let's tell the truth because that's such a rarity. Not that that matters. August the 12th, 2014, the Riva system was France's water filtration system. For the last 3 years, the system has been unused and kept out of operation. TEPCO introduced a new system to process it. One of the problems will be dismantling and disposing of the decontaminated system as it becomes contaminated itself after processing radioactive water. Go read it and weep. Japan's government, this was Sugar, Prime Minister Sugar in 2013, criticized TEPCO's management and using the word leak. Everybody in the media that says the word leak should get a pick down the top of their pipe. TEPCO releases video of groundwater entering the crippled Fukushima Daiichi site. 2.2 sieverts per hour, 220,000 2.2 million microsieverts, 2,200 microsieverts, 2,200 millisieverts. Lethal by the gallon. If we had a gallon of that here, I'd already be dead. TEPCO officials cannot estimate how frequent water will be discharged from the nuclear meltdown. For next month, the radiation levels of the stored water will be tested. The groundwater contains less than 1 becquerel per liter of cesium-134 and 137 and 5 becquerels per liter of beta and 1,500 becquerels of tritium. You can't measure the tritium, by the way, in this environment. TEPCO is still struggling to keep their heads above the contaminated water. 2013. This weekend, TEPCO announced that a water sample from a cable trench by the Unit 2 turbine building contains levels comparable to those seen in the first few weeks. At 8.7 million becquerels per tritium. You won't be able to measure the tritium at this level, by the way, because it's 2.3 billion becquerels of cesium. 750 million becquerels of other radioactive material. So what they're trying to do is convince you that tritium is the biggest byproduct of the radiated fuel when it's actually the curium isotopes, which need lead shielding that's 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium. In each liter of contaminated water, with more than 5,000 tons of that water in the trenches alone, which is 5 million gallons of absurd radiation, which means you can't get on the site. You can't physically go there. In case one hasn't paid attention, the constant stream of international experts have called for TEPCO to be removed as the organization in charge of decommissioning and every time you hear the word cripple, you want to cripple whoever wrote that. It's a revolting, disgusting, despicable industry. It's a revolting, disgusting people in this industry. In your universities and your media, it's revolting. They're revolting. Not some of them, unfortunately, but all of them. It's revolting. It's genocide. This is how crazy these lunatics actually are in the nuclear industry. Rather than evacuate the children from a nuclear wasteland, which is Koriyama is just one of the many communities, which, by the way, this one city here, what I'm going to talk about, 7 people died in the first year on a shopping street, a single street. Dropped dead. Do you have a street in your community where 7 people dropped dead in 1 year or in 1,000 years? Elementary school in Japan using water bottles to shield the students from radiation because the nuclear industry refuses to evacuate them. If this was your children, I bet you'd be screaming too, wouldn't you? An elementary school in Koriyama City, which is located in Fukushima, 34 miles from the nuclear meltdown itself, is using water bottles to shield radiation from the courtyards and other areas around the school buildings. The bottles are filled with water, placed inside of square boxes that are stacked around the classroom. Did you do that for your children in school this year? Or last year or the year before? No. It's using water bottles to shield radiation from the courtyards. The bottles are filled with water and placed in the classrooms, and outside the classrooms. And according to the school, it seemed to reduce the radiation levels by 1/3. And residents of Koriyama City, where 7 people died in 2012, just shopping on a single street because of heart attacks, no doubt, because there's so much radiation, have been concerned about the high amount of radioactive material which has been found around their town. Now, it's not hard to see it because there's hundreds of thousands of 1-ton bags all around their community. The nuclear industry won't let them escape. Rafael Grossi won't even go there, let alone the Fukushima. Koriyama City. Now, United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation removed this site 2 weeks ago, because I'm using it all the time lately. They actually removed it from 2013. That row over there that I highlighted is the disposition of radioactive cesium only per square meter. The population, you can see, is in crazy numbers. These are all radioactive communities. But Koriyama City had 162,000 atomic decays per square meter of gamma. And all the nuclear universities are just thrilled. All your pro, like Waterloo, Canada, and Ontario University, they love this stuff. This makes them happy. Genocide is what they live for. Residents of Koriyama City have been concerned about the high amounts of radioactive material which has been found around their town. School lunches are tested for radiation in a nuclear wasteland. Which is nonsense, by the way. If you got to put water bottles around your classroom, do you really think they're checking the school lunches? Are concerned because they're largely unable to find out where the food is coming from. They're unable to find out. And because Koriyama City is outside the evacuation zone, the government has barely conducted any decontamination activities. The ultimate in betrayal, I would say. Tokyo Electric determines human error as a cause of contaminated leak. Human errors. According to the utility, 100 tons, this is 100,000 gallons, of water containing 240 million becquerels per liter of just beta, because apparently alpha, neutrons, and gamma don't exist, emitting substances leaked out of the storage tanks. Which means that you can't build another tank, because that tank is so radioactive, you physically can't get near it. 240 million atomic decays per liter per minute. Per liter. Was largely treated water from early on in the disaster. It was partially treated. Like, anybody thinks what I'm doing is fun, is insane. You're insane if you think what I'm doing is fun. If you think wallowing in this excrement all day, every day, watching my planet die, watching the genocide and the ecocide and the omnicide has no adverse effects on me, you're wrong. You're crazily, lunatically, I don't even want to use those words, you're just wrong. I work all day, every day, so you hopefully can have some kind of resolution, some kind of future. We don't have any organization supporting us. We have no foundations whatsoever ever supporting us. We have no institutions supporting us. We just have a few people like myself that donate or contribute once in a while. And I should have a fleet of people helping me. Humanity will look back on this, hopefully. There will be some left, and they will hang their heads in humiliation, I can assure you. 240 million atomic decays per liter. 55 is typically considered an evacuation zone at a nuclear power plant, pre-Fukushima. Not 55 million, not 55,000, not 5,500, not 55, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Like 55 of my Geiger counter up there would be an evacuation zone. I'm supposed to evacuate where I'm to right now. TEPCO has admitted the workers were not sufficiently monitoring the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society and the immigrants who don't speak the language we're not sufficiently monitoring the levels of water inside the tanks. Really? Is anybody shocked? Is that a shock to anybody? I have no doubt at one point they put water in the tank from the reactors, but then they had to run away. TEPCO submits criteria to the Nuclear Regulation Authority, the non-regulatory agency, to dump radioactive nuclear waste into the ocean, described as contaminated rainwater. What a revolting, despicable, disgusting, hateful industry this turned out to be. In a new proposal submitted to the non-regulatory authorities, genocide machine TEPCO, a non-decommission authority, will collect the water in an individual tank. And once the rainwater has been diluted to 10 becquerels, a beta ray, will discharge it into the ocean. 10 becquerels of beta. What about the neutrons and the gamma shines and the X-rays and the leak of contaminated water at Fukushima Daiichi Unit 3 may have international safety impact. They discovered a stream of water near a foot wide flowing through the first floor of the reactor building before escaping into a drain. And you can't get near reactor 3 even today, by the way. After an investigation found the water contained levels material equal to highly contaminated water, which is accumulating in the basement of the buildings. Again, the buildings' basements were shattered by the earthquake. The whole country shifted 6 feet to the west, for God's sakes. The investigation revealed 24 million becquerels per liter of beta ray, including strontium at 700,000 becquerels per liter, cesium-134 at 1.7 million becquerels per liter, of cesium-137. This is a perpetual lying and genocide industry. Regulators urged TEPCO to dump the tritiated water 2013. Calling it tritiated water? The disgusting, despicable sack of shit. The revolt from, of course, he's from the International Atomic Energy non-agency, which is the military-industrial complex, which is a genocide machine, which is an idiot machine. They are seemingly just as unable to prevent the eventual release, calling it tritium water in 2013 when they had no filtration system whatsoever, is crimes against humanity, folks. This is evilness and overdrive. If we wouldn't dump it on our own lands, why should we dump it in our oceans? If cargo ships at sea are found to be deliberately dumping waste overboard, they're banned from doing business in many international markets. But the problem is, this is all they've done for 11 years. They killed the ocean, and the research expeditions I showed you at the beginning of this quantifies those assertions. It seems the continuous. See, the words continuous and batch don't belong in the same sentence. Releases of contaminated water become standard operating procedures at the nuclear wasteland as long as TEPCO is allowed to remain in control. TEPCO is not a decommissioning and decontamination organization. They're an operator, and their approach to mitigate and deal with the disaster both before and after March 11th is terrifying. And though international support to contaminated water problems could be dealt with in a more responsible and publicly acceptable manner, the question is how much more will be needed until the tipping point is reached and the international support is not only extended but demanded. Well, that didn't transpire at all, did it? 2013, pretending they're in a building that doesn't even exist. Welcome to the evil, disgusting, cowardly United Nations. Arnie Gunnarsson done the same thing to you, pretending the building looks like that when it actually looks like this. He made the assemblies for those pools, or the racks for the assemblies. This building doesn't exist. It can't look like that. When you zoom in on what they gave you, again, we see this happening. Why is it redacted at the bottom? Why is it redacted at the top? Why is it redacted on the other side? They claim they got 1,500 assemblies. Around 1% is plutonium by weight. Around 1%. So you're talking 1,440 pounds assembly. At 1% is 14.4 pounds. Is almost 19,000 pounds of plutonium was in the building of Reactor 4. And Reactor 4 doesn't exist anymore, which meant 19 of just plutonium. But the biggest byproduct of radiated fuel rods is curium. You need lead shielding 20 times thicker for curium than you do for the plutonium. The World Nuclear Industry Status Report claims that the full release from the Unifor spent fuel pool without any containment or control would cause by far the most serious radiological disaster to date. So if this happens, it's the most serious one to date, is it? I don't understand why the entire planet don't get their pitchforks and torches and head down and burn them to the ground. Don't let them out. Throw them back in on the fire. This is an evil genocide industry that is exterminating you and all the species. Why is the world sitting in silence? Certainly not the people that follow this at my site are not sitting in silence. But why is the rest of the world? Why is the academics? Why is the journalists? Why is the universities? And I mean all of them sitting in silence, or worse, perpetrating the deception. When are you going to wake up and smell the dead and the genocide? Spent fuel rods could be or exposed to air and potentially ignite. Both scenarios, potential release of massive amount of radiation can necessitate evacuations of workers from the plant. Oh, you mean like the steam, the lethal doses of radiation coming up from 10 spots at 6 spots at 10 sieverts an hour? I showed you earlier. It's stupid industry. You're revolting, cowardly industry. You're twisted, sadistic, and hateful piece of shit industry. And everybody in this industry is just a disgusting parasite. TEPCO failed to live on promise to install a fence to restrict the radiation fallout. They're going to build a fence. Oh yeah, that's going to stop it. They built an ice wall. $1 billion construction cost, so they decided not to do that. You got maps showing the whole country from 1,000 feet above the deck was 3 million becquerels per square meter of just iodine at 30,000 or 30 square miles. The reality of it is the whole friggin' planet, this is just a 20-day model. Imagine what the next 20 days does. Covering the entire planet. So claiming that it only covers 20 miles, the contempt they have for this planet is unbelievable. You really think Grossi went back into that nuclear wasteland? Is anybody on the planet actually that gullible? These bags were part of the deception. Amidst the contaminated water leaking from multiple storage pits. These were these big bladders with people walking on it. The numbers we're talking about are catastrophic numbers by the gallon. There's nobody going to walk on bladders with these numbers, period. Or even walk over the hoses. The industry can't exist without lying. 6,000 becquerels per cubic centimeter. 6,000 becquerels per cubic centimeter, you are not walking on it. That's the reality. You're not going to be pumping it either. The pumps can't handle that kind of radiation. No, this was meant to deceive you, manipulate you into thinking that they were doing something. More contaminated water leaks at Fukushima, transferring contaminated water between leaking underground storage pits. 290,000 becquerels per square cubic centimeter. You take 5 gallons of this and bring it to the airport, everybody walks past it for the next million years, dies that day. 5 gallons. These are perpetual liars, folks. So claiming that 20 liters at this number, 6.3 million becquerels of radioactivity, is 286 million per liter of just beta. TEPCO to dump the water. Plant has already released enormous amounts of highly contaminated water directly into the ocean. They didn't release it, they can't stop it. Unless they used their magic mixture of sawdust and newspapers. Remember that headline. After the water's passed through the crippled. Whoever said that should be crippled with baseball bats for saying it. Other systems, like the Seri system, which was again, it can't work because the radiation is so high you can't change the filter. It will triple over the next couple of years. Japan is working to speed up decommissioning. Really? The homeless and the destitute and the victims of society are working up to speed up decommissioning, are they? Workers are paid $11 United States USD per day for their efforts. These are not workers, this is slave labor. You take nuclear scientists, nuclear academics, nuclear students who are working for $11 a day. Give your head a shake, and when it falls off, give it a kick. Better yet, give it to me so I can give it a kick. In Fukushima City, which is supposed to be evacuated, 90,000 houses are eligible for decontamination. It just boggles the mind that I said that sentence. You can't clean a house of radiation, for God's sakes. So if you go looking around our communities, it's not just Fukushima City at 229,000 becquerels per square meter of just gamma. 90,000 houses are eligible for decontamination in Fukushima City. You're eating food from there all the time, by the way, because the industry is a lunatic industry. It's revolting. Grow the food somewhere else, stupid. Grow it on the other side of Japan, you morons. You stupid, stupid, stupid morons. You stupid nobodies. You're supposed to be sentenced for crimes against humanity for doing this. This is the original footage of that so-called steam. I'm going to double. Now, this is 20 times normal speed. I'm going to boost it to 40 times the normal speed. The steam you see coming out, I'm going to speed that up and get up to where the steam releases are very obvious. You start to see the steam wafering through the air. This is lethal. This is lethal from a quarter mile, half a mile away on top of that. This went on for 3 years. They didn't do any work there for 3 years. There was no filtration system. this contaminates everything. Even if it just happened once, it contaminates everything. TEPCO gets approval to release more nuclear waste into the Pacific that they've already killed. The utility hopes to be able to process and dump 150 of the 300 tons of contaminated water being produced daily. 2015. They emit the ice wall, not a real wall, but an ice wall. 260,000 people. This is another fable, of course. Why would you build an ice wall? Why wouldn't you build a real wall? Just hang on. I'll find the original story on that, because the truth don't matter anymore. Let me see if I can find it. I'm usually pretty good. I'm usually pretty good. I didn't say it was always good. I'm just usually pretty good. I know I got it there in just a couple of places. Just bear with me. I don't see it. It should be right there. Let me do that one more time. Because this really tells it if I can find it. Yeah, I don't know what I got done with it this time. Welcome to hell. Oh, well, let's keep going. The ice wall is not going to work because you could have built a real wall for 1/100th of the price. They allegedly had 260,000 people, and when you divide up the money they allocated for it, and if you don't build a wall, everybody made $1,000. There's nothing about the story makes any sense unless you call it what it is, a lie, a perpetual lie. Why not build a real wall? TEPCO gets approval to release more water. Yay. This is absurd. This is just that this is stuff that was poured over the reactor core. In your paper suit. TEPCO also claims to burn 7,000 of those paper suits each day. The bypass operation is not having any effects. Unit 3 debris removal operation releases 280 billion becquerels per hour. If you look up what a curie is, it's around 37 billion decays. But you got to multiply that by around 100 to get a gram. So 100 times 37 billion. Let me do the math for you, because why not? Hang on, I'll bring it up on the screen for you. The other screen, Dana. Okay, so you got 37 billion times 110 for ccm per gram, which is 4 trillion. So 4 trillion times 2 Danas. 4 trillion. So they're tearing down reactor 3 with the cranes was releasing roughly 1/6 of a gram a day of radiation. Like the call it, because don't get me wrong, that's still a horrific number, but it's not the number, is it? We got a poll tonight. If anybody's interested in polls, Should the United Nations fake International Atomic Energy, should the fake UN's fake International Atomic Energy Agency be replaced by humans or an independent, real organization worldwide? And we got somebody was stupid and voted no, but the rest of them figured it out and got it right. How can anybody be that stupid to vote no? How does that even work? So that's the remains of Reactor 3, right? This is what they're showing. The structure you see there doesn't physically touch Reactor 3, by the way. And then voila, 100 feet above the deck there, this is what they claim it looks like. So let me play this little clip for you, because this is part of the equation. Not that clip. This one. So this is reactor. This is actually what it looks like. That's the fake building over there. That would normally be 120 feet above the wreckage you're looking at there. Helen Caldecott was asked in hundreds of interviews about that, and this one they directly asked her. I put the pictures to your left and right. The original interview is in the center. It's very short.
The Japanese are very tidy people, and they have, by robot control and by human beings, removed the debris from the top of Building 4, and it does look pristine.
So she's claiming it doesn't look like that, it looks like this. The top doesn't exist. She actually wrote 14 books, anti-nuclear books. She was invited on all the TV shows to tell the same lie. Looks like the Geiger counter didn't get a full charge in it tonight. My apologies. Cesium found in steel exported to South Korea. Found in steel. This story makes me sick. TEPCO's ice wall is not working. Piece of shit Kennedy tours Fukushima plant. That's nonsense. TEPCO can't bring the contaminated water issues under control. The REVA system, they now admit their goal of filtering water by 2015 is not going to happen. There's certain parts of the site where they don't even have control. Tanks were built hastily to hold the highly contaminated water. The highly contaminated water, which is fuel water, full of particulates from the fuel detonating, which means you can't get close to a tank, which means you can't build another tank. The liquid processing system, ALPS, has yet to function. Not reliably, but yet to function. And you can't decommission it because it's too lethal once you turned it on. You can't change the filter because the filters are tens of thousands of sieverts. The filter needs to be 12 feet thick of steel to shield whoever's going to change the filters. 100% deception. April 21st, 2014, ALPS system wasn't even working. 2014, they're running out of room to store the contaminated debris. TEPCO to double contaminated storage capacity by 2016, 2014. It's all about deception. They shuts down the ALPS system in March. That didn't work. I just showed it to you. It has yet to work. The problem is when you, as with the REVA system, as with the SARI system, when you turn that on, even if there was good intentions, which there's not, this is strictly about manipulation. The tanks are there only to deceive you from the documentation I showed you at the very beginning. I'm showing you that in desperation that you'll wake up and get your act together and resist the extermination. TEPCO begins work on the underground ice wall. The list never stops, right? Investigating radiation levels of the exhaust stacks. They can't get near it. It's like 25 sieverts per hour at the surface. And Grossi's not that far away from getting his picture taken. Oh yeah. Getting my picture taken at a nuclear wasteland. These are fake pictures. That's 2021. Look how the denigrated pictures in the background. When they should look like this. Right, they built this structure that doesn't physically touch reactor 3 to trick you. It was only meant for one thing, was to deceive you. Here's what before they put that stump around it, here's what reactor 3 looked like. There was nothing left. I hope you found this entertaining as I did. So this is 2 weeks straight without a day off. And that's not working very good. I'm not gonna be doing full shows. I might do another show tomorrow at some point, just like a 10-20 minute video, and another 10 or 20 minute video. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I might on Saturday. But obviously I'm burnt out. I can't get anything else accomplished. We can't do any research if I'm going to do this every day. The weather, we won't see. Summer doesn't start here till the middle of June. Like physically doesn't start until the middle of June. And we're not getting out looking for species. We need to do stuff like that. Grossi just fake being at reactor Fukushima. Why would you take this is the same picture former Japanese prime ministers have taken. Hang on, I can probably find that for you really quick before let me see if I can find that betrayal. Because there's a whole bunch of those pictures in a row, so I should be able to. I have a section here where I keep stuff that I use all the time. Which is around 1,300 important pieces of information that we need to validate certain facets. I might be able to find it. I kind of remember where I put it. It's I have a very sophisticated equipment that I use. I actually use the same equipment you would get at BBC, ABC, NBC, or stuff like that. My equipment is bought from the same place. Oh, there we go. Life is good. So think about where they're taking that picture right there. Because there is a precedence for what I'm showing you. So these two pictures, that one with his little bottle of water that I love to shove up his nose. Okay, there's actually somewhere else. Here they are again. Now see the guy in the background holding the umbrellas? Notice the umbrellas are transparent. You can go check it out yourself, right? Prime Minister Kishida, which is when he was just elected there a little while ago. There's no date on that. So it was October 2021. You can see between his legs and both sides of him. But the hand, where that hand holding the umbrella up, that's Photoshop. There's no room for someone to stand up there. You notice how the blue top of the stack shows up through the umbrella in that one? You'll see it doesn't show up in other shots. And in fact, behind them, the umbrella doesn't show up because they've done a bad job of the Photoshop. Notice how clean this picture is. Notice how denigrated the back picture is. That's not blurred out. That's poor Photoshop. That's amateur Photoshop stuff. Now you can see the blue stack, top of the stack over there. But look at this building here. The stack behind them. And this is Photoshop. He never actually went there. He's in the same spot where Grossi allegedly had his picture taken today or yesterday. Again, that hand doesn't belong there. There's no one can fit back there. You're on the other side of the fence, see? He's on the other side of the fence. And again, look at where reactor 3 is in context. So when you think about where reactor 3 is in context of that picture, then today's picture, you can see where reactor 3 is. You can see the same handrail, but again, the denigration in the background, which tells you it's Photoshop. I know, because I do a shitload of this stuff over the years. And when I say shitload, I'm talking tens of thousands. And I have the real equipment to do it and the skill to do it too. But if you go read that story right there, you'll get the same pictures. And you can ask the same question. So when you see rat face Grossi, Rafael Grossi, you also had Shinzo Abe was in the same spot, but he's further away. Again, look at the denigration of the pictures in the background. These are fake pictures. Did you know he married his first cousin? It's legal to marry your first cousin in Japan, by the way. And here's another one. Look at him. And look, that's the same guy up there. Was with Grossi in 2021. Beautiful picture here. Completely different picture in the background. These people are lunatics, eh? They faked that picture when he allegedly went, the current prime minister allegedly went, they actually faked it. But that's not a big surprise. Anybody who's familiar with the International Degenerate Agency. Is anybody surprised? Anybody confused by that? Where are you to, Dana? I don't know. We got a poll. Polls clicking along at 51 votes. Should the United Nations, I ran out of space, right? Should the fake UN, fake International Atomic Energy Agency be replaced by independent real organizations? I mean, you know, doesn't that make sense? Aren't we sick of being hoodwinked? Aren't we sick of the genocide? Aren't we sick of evil? Again, if you're not familiar, you got to go back and see the beginning of the video. So the tanks are about you not understanding what has already happened. This is just a 16-day model of the radioactive fallout. Covers the entire planet and all the oceans. That's to immediately wreck the phytoplankton worldwide instantly, which is the basis of the food chain, the basis of the oxygen chain, the basis of the carbon sequestration chain. Were annihilated in the first 15 days. We've done research year after year after year from British Columbia, Vancouver, all the way to Alaska, 4 to 5 months a year. If you go back to the beginning of the video, you'll see all that documentation. Oodles and oodles and oodles of documentation. The industry is insane. And that's easy to describe, because why are all nuclear power plants these disease factories surrounded by farms? And come on, right? At what point is the world going to snap? Hopefully this video helps that happen. That'd be pretty cool. I'm just saying, it's a crime to let them get away with murdering you, your friends, your families, your loved ones in increments by poisoning your entire planet, your ecosystem, your biosphere. It's not very hard, to be honest, is the sad part of this story. I'm really good at it. You know why? Because there's no lies to remember. Whole problem is, I take it to a completely different level. And I don't expect people to be able to replicate what I'm doing. It's not that I'm some special person. It's just I've been at it a very long time. I realized issues that I had to resolve, and we sacrificed everything to be able to resolve those issues. It took forever for me to get to where I'm to. But I provide you with the documentation so that you can be articulate on any of these subjects. And I have covered many facets of this, and I also like take a great big dump on the nuclear industry in general when I can, because it makes me feel all giddy inside. I'm so burnt out, it's unbelievable. Today, the whole day, I just felt the wear on my body. It's really something. I realized that I'm no spring chicken anymore, and I have pushed myself to the limit. I'm not pushed myself to the limit. I'm doing it in desperation that the world will come to its senses. This is the current video you're watching. Hi, everybody. If you scroll down through all of the descriptions, you'll see at the very bottom, there's 3 links. This one you can buy merchandise from my shop. And once you go there, if you keep scrolling down, you can buy backpacks and mugs, t-shirts. You can buy a lot of this. If you keep scrolling, you'll get all kinds of different colors on a lot of this. The first section is mostly just a couple of colors. But as you keep scrolling down, this will open up more and more material for you. And by, you'll get, there's all kinds of save the planet from climate change, ban nuclear power plants. Save the whales, save the insects, ban nuclear power. Let me bring up one of them so you can get so you got different colors. And usually you got different sizes, all the way up to 5 times, for goodness sake. So you got everything you could hope for, extra small. And that's your front look, and that's your back look. And save the insects, ban nuclear power plants. And then if you scroll down there, you will find similar stuff with that slogan. And you got mugs, and you got bike shorts, you got all kinds of weird stuff. So that's really cool. Or you can donate directly to me at my PayPal account. Or you can go to my website, thenuclearproctologist.org. Is where I hang my shield. Wait for the first picture. Wait for the page to load up. Scroll down underneath the first picture. You can see a donate button. You can donate with credit cards there. And somebody has to support me. More than 1 or 2 people have to support me to keep this operation. The boat should be in the water right now. My spirit Thomas should be on the ocean looking for birds with tumors on their heads. Last year we were finding birds with half their head were tumors. One great big tumor on one side. One day we found 5 dead birds floating around. And this stuff is important because nobody's doing research. We got to be out there actively at it, but it costs a fortune, and if I do this all day, then I can't do the research. And so the weekends, Friday and Saturday and Sunday, I would prefer to do research, right? We also go out in the woods. All the spiders are missing, all the ants are missing, majority of the birds are missing. Each summer, I've been trying to go out and do research expeditions in the woods also, and we noticed that no birds visit my site whatsoever, except for a single time. It was a single time. I got no idea where I put that little clip to. All I can tell you is that if the world would support me, I would hire a bunch of people. We would curb stomp disgusting parasites like him in a heartbeat, and we would do professional jobs where people would be informed and would be able to do the same thing, and that the deception would be broken, the hypnotized deception. The industry, or the military industrial complex known as United Nations, which is 195 militaries, they have now destroyed everybody and all species' future. it's time to fight back. It's time, and you can fight back by educating the population. I prefer you all got baseball bats, a couple of million of you, and went and exterminated these disgusting parasites, but just educating the population so they don't buy into the deception and deceit and dishonesty would be just as effective. I suspect I won't be back tomorrow. I might get a little short video out Friday and Saturday. I'm pretty burnt out. I want to do research, but I'm afraid to waste the little bit of money that we got right now. And hopefully some foundation, some organization takes the pressure off the people that are supporting me, and that we can really come out and curb stomp this disgusting, parasitic, revolting, cowardly industry and universities and medias that have betrayed us and our futures and our wonderful. This is the only planet you got. You do realize that. This is your only planet. Well, you don't really got any species that are going to survive, but we got to try. We got 55 votes. I'll leave that till the end. I'll do another quick shout out. That seems to work for me. And bear with me. Port Angeles, Albert, good night everybody. Tinker, Nancy Sands, James Lucette, hi James, Albert, Peaceware, good night everybody. Stephen Young, hi Stephen. Kevin Blanche. Patrick. Another Gmail. Doing a quick shout out. Chet Austin, Mr. Sir, Ryan Underwood. I'm probably going to miss a few people. Whenever I read the comments after, I always seem to miss one or two people. I got no idea why that is, because I think I'm doing a really good job of doing shout outs, but apparently not good enough. John Shiflett, still remembering John. I'm still getting it right, man. John Curtis. Marjorie Vincent. Hi, Marge. Philip Wan. Snakes and Doggies. I was a little cranky last night. I took that video down. I'm gonna hit him again and do it right. I'm not letting it go. I just don't like putting that kind of emotions out there. Sandra Churchill. Hi, Sandra. Jane Chris Cole. Dennis, you're welcome, folks. You don't need to thank me, folks. Thank you for coming by and learning. I could be pretty tough on people sometimes, and I get that. It's a tough subject, right? And I'm not yelling, obviously, at the people that are here regularly, or that support me, or that are aware. I'm yelling at the random ones that come by, and I shouldn't even do that. But it's hard when you see your planet being destroyed, and the world could actually do something. It's really hard when we see how evil this media has become, and that our universities you're completely insane to trust your universities. Shane Clark, I'm going to close the poll here, right there. I just closed it. You have to be crazy to trust your universities. That's horrifying, isn't it? Andrew B. Hi, Andrew. Yeah, I know. It's just saying. I feel bad because I worry some of you folks will misinterpret what I'm saying. I don't imagine anybody that follows me regularly will. They kind of know that I'm yelling at the machine, not at the individual people that are trying to comprehend it or trying to support me. Obviously, I'm trying to educate the planet. I'm desperate, is why I get upset for the planet to fight back. Another crime, being desperate for the planet to try to fight back against despicable cowards like Rafael Grossi. Yeah, I definitely burnt out this week. And the stress has caught up to me this week. I didn't get to sleep till I laid down after the show, about 2 hours after the show last night. I couldn't get to sleep. I kept trying, and I finally fell asleep at around 8 a.m. this morning. And then didn't wake up till 2 p.m. And then I went back to bed a few hours ago because I wasn't feeling good, and laid down for another couple of hours. And I had done the work anyway to get the show ready. And I'm burnt out. I ran into the ground, I'm burnt out. And so I need to take a day or two off, I suppose. And because I ain't going away, that's for sure. And I ain't giving up, that's for sure. And I'm never going to lose my passion for this planet and for everybody else. I'm here to go to war for those who can't. And I am here to win the war. I'm not here just to go to war. I am here to win the war. And we are at war. They are at war against you. They are committing genocide and ecocide, and omnicide covers everything, I guess. So it's an omnicide. God bless everybody. Hugs for everybody. Thank you, Victor. Anybody I missed, my apologies. I will end up reading your comments later. We'll call it a night. We'll see everybody when we see everybody. There's a good chance there'll be a short video tomorrow and a short video on Saturday. I don't like the idea of taking a day off because the industry is not going to take a day off, and I can't justify not coming out and countering it, right? Yeah, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Thank you. And Colette, hi Colette. Good to see you, honey. We'll see everybody soon enough. Have a great night, great day tomorrow. We'll catch everybody as soon as possible. God bless everybody. Hugs for you and your friends and your families, your loved ones, your pets, and everybody on this planet. We will not be defeated. We will not give up. We are not going away. Take care, folks.